just want to ask you about the comments that Judy Philpott made in Maclean's magazine, saying there's more to come in the SNC scandal. Are you concerned that she's damaging the party's brand and also your re-election possibilities?
Well, I think you continue to do innuendos. There's no reason that Jane or Jody cannot go into the House of Commons, parliamentary privilege, talk for as long as they want, say anything they want. They'll be clear of any, cabinet issues. Parliamentary privilege is in the House of Commons. And there's absolutely no reason that the two former ministers can't do that.
They maintain that they're still governed by cabinet confidence and that the Prime Minister's only partially waived that.
Not at all. Absolutely. I've been here a long time, and I know how it works. I used parliamentary privilege once myself, and I know how it works. There's absolutely no reason that we have to have all this innuendo lurking around about this, that, and the rest of it. That's the platform. As parliamentarians, we have the House of Commons, and that's where they both should be going.
Have you expressed that to her and the dissatisfaction that apparently some of your Ontario caucus colleagues share, that she's hurting the party?
She's well aware of how we all feel. We don't want to damage the party. We've got a lot of work to do, and this is hanging over our head with this innuendo of this or that or the rest of it. If there's something to be said, and clearly there is, it's an opportunity to say it to the Canadian public. They could hold a press conference, either one of them, if they wanted to clear the air on anything. They're under no restrictions. They can walk into the House of Commons right now and say parliamentary privilege, Mr. Speaker, and say whatever they want.
Ms. Sgro,
Say what they have to say. I mean, Jody did 4 hours of testimony. If she's got more to say, say it. But go on in with parliamentary privilege into where you're supposed to be, in the House of Commons, into our House, and say exactly what you have on your mind, what you think went wrong, so on.
Is this hurting the party, especially in the GTA, do you think?
It's a concern for us. Nobody wants to have this kind of innuendo that drops little points here, or there's something more going on. Let them walk into the House.
Your colleague John McKay has said that, and he's been there almost as long as you have, and he said that he watches this. He's never seen anything like it, and he says if it hasn't crossed the line for a matter of expulsion from caucus, it's come pretty close to it. I mean, is there a point where you have to make the decision? Maybe they shouldn't be sitting in caucus. They're sending these torpedoes in.
Well, I'd like to see them next step go into the House of Commons and take 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. It's their time. They can talk as long as they want, and the Speaker will give them all the time they want. Speak to Canadians in general through Parliament, but clear the air for all of us as well.
Do you think the Prime Minister will?
My understanding is that there's nothing stopping either one of them. They have complete clearance to go in and say government secrets they can't divulge, but anything other than that, they are free.
When Ms. Philpott this morning said that she doesn't feel that what has been said, or needs to be said has been said, isn't she contradicting the Prime Minister, who yesterday said that he felt that enough had been heard from her, that she'd had her chance at the committee?
Well, she clearly has more to say, and she should be saying it either in a press conference or in the House of Commons, where she has parliamentary privilege, and she's free to say whatever her perception is of any of it.
Should she tell her to put up or shut up? Should she still be in caucus?
Those are discussions we'll have, difficult ones for us too. I'm not answering that one either. I used that line once myself, if you remember.
I do recall it. Which line is that?
Put up or shut up line?
Is that what you're saying to her?
No, I'm not. I hope that she will take full opportunity to come in the House, parliamentary privilege, to say whatever it is that she wants to say, to clear the air so everybody knows. And we can
well, I know you're sleep deprived, so we really appreciate this. You told reporters on Thursday that there's no reason Jody, Wilson-Raybould, and Jane Philpott can't get up in the House of Commons, claim parliamentary privilege, and take as long as they want to tell Canadians everything they think they need to hear. Mm-hmm. Why aren't they?
Well, I think that's the question, is why haven't they taken advantage of the parliamentary privilege? I find it unbelievable that nobody mentioned to them that they had that ability to do that.
You have now. Have you heard anything back from them?
I haven't heard anything back yet from them. I suspect that they're discussing this with their own... They have legal counsel, both of them, is my understanding, so I suspect that they're having those discussions, but that's up to them. The issue is that You cannot come out with. Jody had 4 hours of testimony. Say what you need to say and move on from the issue. But to continue to say, I have more to offer and Canadians need to know the truth, but you can't keep dropping innuendo every day and expect that all of us, as from the Prime Minister down, are hopeless to stand back and do anything about this. So use parliamentary privilege is what I'm recommending and asking both of my colleagues to do.
The damage to the party. Give me some sense of what you're hearing or what your concerns you have that this is undermining the Liberal brand.
Liberals, in particular, are asking us what's going on. Why has this issue become such a big issue when it's more about two personalities and about the inflexibility of a minister to not take into consideration all of the interests of the country in making a decision, not getting a second legal opinion, just being too firm in the way her decision-making was done.
I know that Ontario Caucus met on Wednesday and that you won't tell me what happened inside, but the general drift is that it was an uncomfortable and difficult meeting with Jane Philpott. And I'm wondering if MPs are telling you or are expressing concern that this could damage their chances at re-election, particularly those who hold seats that are very competitive.
Of course it does. It affects all of us. When one of our members of the team decides to go out and speak against the rest of us or unnerve the rest of us in the comments, it's a serious issue.
So when you say that to them, what's the response from Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott?
I don't believe they thought anything about the rest of the team in making the decisions. I think it was a short-sighted decision. In retrospect, they should have come to caucus and said, or gone to the Prime Minister, or come to caucus and say, I have a problem, I don't like certain things going on, and caucus would talk about it as a group, make some suggestions as to ways to correct it, and move on. But you're not a one-man show when you're an elected member of Parliament. I think they need to recognize that it's not all about them, that their decision-making affects all of us, and most importantly, it affects the stability of our own country and our party.
This has been several weeks now, and it seems that every day or two there's something new from one of them. What does that tell you?
It makes me think that there's another agenda at play here. Because
what do you
otherwise,
think that agenda is?
Well, we'll have to see how that comes out, but it doesn't make sense. She gave 4 hours of testimony. She said nothing illegal happened. She felt pressured. Cabinet is a high-pressure place to be. Politics is full of pressure all the time. So I don't know what...
It does seem that what is being said refers directly to the Prime Minister, the conversations he had, the representations he might have made. What does that tell you? When you're not sure what their motivations are, but they're talking mostly about a story that involves the shuffle, about the SNC-Lavalin affair, that the target of their anger or concern is him.
Yeah, unfortunately, it certainly appears to be that way. And I have to say to you that, I've gone through, I think, 5 prime ministers, and I have never had a prime minister as caring and compassionate a man as Justin Trudeau. And I say that in complete honesty.
But one more thing on this. You mentioned that you've been around for 5 prime ministers. You were there when the Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien internal grudge match was going on. What's different about this one?
Well, I don't want us to get into that. I don't see any need to it. I think majority of my colleagues are very supportive of our Prime Minister, of the work that he's doing, of the agenda that he's driving forward on behalf of Canadians. And there isn't that kind of tension that there was back then when you had different fractions. Maybe this is the beginning of a fraction being created. It's maybe 4 or 5 people. But caucus is very pleased with how our Prime Minister has moved the agenda forward, how he treats caucus. He's called all of us lately on the telephone. He frequently asks caucus, what do you think about this and what do you think about that?
And in the calls, what is he asking you or telling you?
how are things going, what's happening in the constituency, are there any issues that we need to be thinking about as we're moving forward.
But he's not asking you about your opinions on those two or the issues that they're raising.
We have talked about that in a private matter.
All right. Well, let me ask you one last question. The Ethics Committee is going to meet on Tuesday. You know, the Conservatives want to try to call Jody Wilson-Raybould to appear before them and perhaps Jane Philpott. We know that Justice Committee wrapped up its hearings because your colleagues, Liberal MPs on that committee, said they had heard enough. What do you expect Liberal MPs on the Ethics Committee will do?
Well, let me say that we have a commissioner that's an ethics commissioner. His job, and he's free from all this politics, because all of this is politics, is what's going on in my mind. The commissioner is free. He's appointed by the government, but he's free to go and do a complete examination. That's where it is now as well. The commissioner has started that investigation. I think we should pull back from all of the politics, leave the issue alone, let them go and do their parliamentary privilege, say whatever they want to say, and let the commissioner do his work.
And at the same time, as you said right off the top, if Jane Philpott and Jody Wilson-Raybould have something else to say, they should say it.
You know, it's either put up or shut up, and that's a line that we often hear for people. If you've got something to say, you've had 2 months to get out there and say it.
Okay, Judy Sgro, appreciate your time. I know it's been a difficult week for you. We really do appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.